and welcome to The What Show, a show where we dissect the ins and outs of social, economic, business, and money matters of Malaysia and Southeast Asia. Hi, and I am your host, Bahons, and this is our very first episode of the series. So, I figured that we are all hungry for information after staying home for so long due to the MCO. So, we figured, let's speak to someone who knows the best information and news straight from the source, and someone who knows exactly how much Malaysian listed companies are making. So let's welcome Shalini Kumar, the acting business editor of the Sun Daily. Hey boo! How you doing, girl?
I'm good. I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here. I'm really honored to be part of the first season, the first episode of the show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And just for your viewers, just for your information, Shalini and I, we go way back. I won't tell you way back when, but we go way back when we were still, chasing after rich men for stories. That's for a different. Now that is a story.
That's a different story.
For a different channel altogether. But let's get back to the show. So maybe you can tell us more. How have you been during the past MCO? Work-wise, was it crazy? Was it hectic, or it was just like Netflix and chill?
Okay, well, I would say that it's actually been a little crazy.
Okay.
Just simply because I think obviously this is something that no one has dealt with before. And my transition into my role as acting business editor actually happened during the MCO. So it's actually been quite challenging in a good way as well, I suppose, because I've had to learn very quickly how to do things, how to manage things, how to delegate, plan, just everything that comes to the role. I've had to do it from a distance because all of us have been working from home since the MCO started.
Okay, and how do you end up in this role?
You want the full story or just like how I ended up?
We can have the abridged and we save the full story for drinks after 5. Yeah.
Okay. Well, me ending up as acting business editor actually came quite unexpectedly. I was actually in line for promotion at work to assistant editor, and then my now ex-editor, he decided to resign.
I see.
And that kind of just bumped me up into into the editor's role, and then I've been doing this since the end of March actually.
So no Game of Thrones style.
No.
Okay, everything was
nothing at all.
Okay, everything is good. Okay.
Everything is good. Yeah.
All right. So now let's dig deep into what has been happening for the past few months. So can you tell us a bit more about the current state of affairs in Malaysia business-wise, from your few months understanding and everyone being trapped in this particular situation?
I think it would be an understatement to say that it's been difficult for everyone. Businesses especially, we've heard all the stories that come out every day. People are struggling to make ends meet. Businesses aren't able to pay the employees. They've had to let go of a good number of people. So it's not, everyone in Malaysia right now is facing a tough time. I don't think that that's too harsh of a statement to make, or something like that. As for how worried we should be, I think what we're starting to see now is, as cliche as it's going to sound, this is the new normal, and people are starting to get used to it.
Okay.
So, life has to go on. Like, we can't just be, fearful all the time. We can't stay at home all the time. We can't isolate ourselves forever. So I think what we've been seeing now is everybody's finding a way to work around the limitations that we have. Like, especially in terms of social distancing, you've seen things like the rise of Zoom meetings, right? Like, even AGMs, they're being held virtually nowadays.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
So something like this?
Something like this, yeah. So you basically have a board of directors, limited of course to maybe about 10-15 people, and then they have a camera in front of them. Just talk to everybody. No shareholders in the venue at all, and then polling would be done electronically. Yeah. So you find, people, we are as a species innovative, and we've been able to find ways to work around the limitations that we see now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's now move on to investment.
Ah.
So various types of investment, your unit trust, your shares and whatnot. Would you say the share market these days are a little bit less robust, to put it lightly?
Yes. In one word, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's still various ways to invest.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something that you wish to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this goes towards, of course, wealth accumulation. I'm not obviously a financial wealth planner, but if you are not experienced in investing in equities, one thing that I think people can look at is actually robo-advisors, which are quite new investment tools that have come in, I would say maybe towards not even end of last year, but last year, coming into this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, not naming any names, I'm not promoting any particular company, but robo-advisors are good in the sense that they use AI to plan investments. So you kind of, if you have no experience in investing at all, what you do is you put in a certain amount that obviously is affordable to you, don't break the bank.
Yep.
You put in a certain amount, you can plan it every month. Say maybe you put 100 ringgit towards your investment every month. What they will do is they will take the 100 ringgit and they will invest it across a portfolio of either asset classes or things like bonds, stuff like that, that have been shown to actually beat the market trend. So in other words, if the market is showing a downward trend, whatever your investments are usually tend to be slightly above that line.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one way I think that people can still invest these days. Of course, if you're more savvy, you can go and do it yourself. You can go into bonds, you can go into forex, but of course, those things being having a volatile nature,
Yep.
You do need to be quite savvy in your investments. Like you need to know what you're doing, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And building upon that right now, so let's say if I do have some level of knowledge in terms of investment, what are the companies that I should look at in terms of categories or industries, and what are some of the companies or stocks that I should totally avoid? Insider tips, if you have any.
No, nothing insider.
All right.
But I think, say if you're looking at stocks, most obvious would be those that are defensive in nature. So those that obviously can withstand these types of global events. Like, say for example, we have COVID-19 that we're dealing with. Healthcare is the most obvious one. As you can see, even if you look at the market day by day, healthcare stocks, glove makers, of course, have been the ones to consistently make gains. And the prospects for the company's earnings, fantastic, because as you know, Malaysia, we have I think 2 or 3 of the world's largest glove makers. So their products are not just for Malaysia, they're worldwide. So of course, their prospects are fantastic over the next, at least 2 to 3 years. So things like that. So if you look at hospitals as well, of course, those listed hospital stocks, those would also be something that you could look at, during this time. But if it was something else, like say maybe export-oriented stocks, that could still be a little 50-50 at this point because China is not back to 100%. But that's not to say you can't explore that option.
Maybe not now.
Maybe not now.
Okay. Are listed companies still engaging traditional media, or are generally PR companies, PR agencies, are they engaging with the traditional media?
Yes, but not as much as they used to. I think one trend that has been quite apparent for anyone who follows the media sector is that ad spend has really gone down over the years. It's not just specific to 2020. Like this is a trend that's been going on for some time. But yes, they still do approach print media specifically just because the ads still do have reach to people.
So it's a slightly lower reach.
It's a slightly lower reach, but they still do make a bit of spending there.
All right. So with less companies engaging with traditional media, how are you going out and coming out with new stories every day? Tough question.
That is a tough question. But actually, it's not been so bad. Again, as I said, because I came into this role at the end of March, which
Yeah.
was, smack in the middle of MCO. That initial period was actually quite tough because everybody was still kind of scrambling and figuring out, how do we do this? All the events, the MOUs, the signings, the briefings, everything, they all got cancelled. Because of course no one was willing to expose themselves and put themselves
You're all
at risk.
cancelled.
So that period was actually very tough, to try and find stories.
Okay.
That was when you kind of have to think outside the box. You have to get a bit creative and you have to look at what trends can you observe from the market, what trends can you observe from society, how can that be blended together to make to create articles that would catch people's interest.
Okay.
Now, however, it's actually a little bit easier because, as I said, businesses have started to find ways of going around things. So now the briefings are back on, but they're all online. You watch, and then you watch on Zoom or you watch on Google Meets or Microsoft Teams.
Yep.
And then you can send questions through different apps or via the platform itself. So that has made me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that said, back then all we heard about a couple of months ago is just gloom and doom. This company shutting down, that company is bankrupt. I'm firing all my staff. I'm cutting pay. And what's the outlook of business news now? Are we still in that gloom and doom stage, or are we moving towards slightly more positive news?
I think it's half.
Okay.
It's half. Just simply because now that it's a conditional MCO, a greater number of sectors have now been opened up. They're being allowed to operate. So I think that definitely has helped business. That also, of course, in terms of news making, makes it easier for us to find out what is going on, how businesses are coping,
Yep.
what are their strategies going forward, things like that.
Yep.
Gloom and doom, it's still there.
Okay.
In the sense that I think because of the extended, 2-month or so shutdown that all businesses had to endure, I think a lot of them have actually written this year off in terms of making a profit or even breaking even.
All right.
So I think the gloom and doom aspect, we can still kind of, we can expect it to hang around for the rest of the year, but probably in 2021, I think things will start looking up a little bit from there.
Okay. So with you being in the position that you are right now, do you get insider news, and that with that insider news it helps you in life?
No, we never get insider news. But of course, being in the business, we have contacts with management.
Okay.
And we stay in touch with what's happening that way. Yeah.
And what are the management saying these days?
Basically what I've been saying so far, actually. Yeah, to use a rather infamous phrase, right now they're cautiously optimistic.
Oh God, I hate that. I've been hearing that for 10 years. Everyone's cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, but
Please stop
it's
using that.
it's relevant now. It's relevant now.
Okay, so Shalini, have PR companies and corporate comms professionals, have they been pitching stories to you throughout this particular MCO season? Or they're just like, I'm working from home, I don't need to meet my KPI on media appearances?
Initially, when it first started, as I said, it was quite dry because people were still, scrambling to figure out how things would work. But I'm happy to say that yes, throughout, or at least now that we are in the position that we're in, they haven't stopped pitching. No, so hasn't been as many as before, but we're still definitely getting offers.
Are you worried at that point when they stop pitching? That
At that point, yes, because I didn't know how I was going to fill my pages. At that point, yes, but now I would say, as I said, it made me think out of the box, and we're past that now. So at least positive within the bed.
Positive reinforcement. And just for the audience's information, previously when I was with a PR agency, we have different multiple KPIs. So one of them was how many stories we pitched to the media, how many media carried our stories. So during the MCO, I was still speaking with some of my colleagues and also industry peers. They mentioned the KPIs changed. They are no longer focusing as much on media appearances and media pitches. They are now looking at internal communications first, looking to develop a internal communication strategy, because as we knew at the early stages of the COVID-19 emergence in Malaysia, a lot of internal communications like memos, HR memos, staff memos, those were made public. For example, some companies up north, tech companies, they have 1 or 2 positive cases, so those staff memos asking them to work from home were internal communications, internal memos. So PR professionals and corporate communications professionals knew that whatever they were writing, their audience are no longer just the staff members, but also the staff, the suppliers, the vendors, the media, and ultimately their customers. Hence, we are in this stage where communication, we do not have a clear division between internal communications and external communications. It is just communications as a whole. So to sum it up right now, with all that's been happening, right, what's next for you in terms of career-wise? Are you looking to write more stories that are positive, or are we still going to be stuck talking about gloom while being cautiously optimistic?
I think for myself, I have to try and strike the balance also. I mean, I know personally what we've been doing for the business section at The Sun. We've been trying to highlight different businesses, what they've been going through, if they've experienced shutdowns, if they're on the verge of bankruptcy, things like that. Which can be quite draining to write about, because nobody likes to talk about the negatives all the time. So I do try and find a balance, like not always focusing on the companies, but to try and highlight positive trends that we see in the market. Like I think recent example would be the KLCI. It made gains, I think, for 9 days straight or something like that, instead of closing in the red. So yeah, so I mean that of course, a lot of it might have been speculative buying and whatever, but that's something else. But I mean, it's a positive, because people do like to also hear good news in the middle of the bad. So if you keep churning out bad news stories, people are just going to be like, well, where's the hope? Yeah.
Where is the hope?
Okay. I think the hope is where you see it.
Okay.
It all depends on your viewpoint also. I mean, like if you constantly look for the bad, then that's all you're going to be seeing.
All right.
Yeah.
So just to add on a little bit more, you've mentioned earlier you're writing for the older millennials, the late 20s to the early 40s. And so who are your target demographics now? And do you realize that this group of people want something more upbeat, whereas another group wants something more, gloom and doom? Realistic. Okay. Realistic.
Yeah, again, as I said, I think it's trying to find a balance in the content. I personally, for the business pages, again, my first priority is obviously to get the main issues on the pages or on the website. But like this month is corporate earnings season, and a lot of analysts before this were saying that, we predict that corporate earnings will be bad, and everything is going to be downhill, at least for this year, blah blah blah. As I said, they've written off 2020 basically. But what we've actually found is that there are companies who have bucked the trend in terms of corporate earnings. So I try and obviously not everything is like, this company went down so many percent, that one went down so many percent, whatever. But we also try and highlight the good, like, hey, this company that's actually quite well established, the earnings went up, XX percent. Yeah.
So we're digging those information. There's a lot to sieve through, but it's there.
Yeah. So if you try and get that balance, I think of, actually representing what's going on, but also, giving people a little bit of good news, I think that's about all I can do.
Those are very wise words to say, especially in a time where we don't know what's for dinner later. We don't know what's for breakfast tomorrow. We don't know whether we are going to have breakfast tomorrow. So ultimately, it's all about finding hope in the darkest places, and also finding a balance, striking a balance between the good and the bad news.
Yeah.
So, Shalini, as we sign off, I would like to say thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
our
I had so much fun.
series today. This is the first.
Yes.
We will be back. So before we log off, don't forget to like and subscribe to us. Please leave your comments down below. And we would like to say, stay home and stay safe.
Yes.
Right, thank you so much. See you soon, guys. Bye.
Okay. In Malaysia, we got Fong Siling, we got Siesta, and we got Tan Wu, who are business editor turned super investor. So in everyone's mind is that are business editors that great that you can be a super investor one day?
Oh, clearly not, because I'm not a super investor.
Where are you hiding your millions?
No, of course, I don't have the answer to that question, because then, of course, I would be a super investor. I also will host my own seminars and teach people how to get rich, right? But I think, personally speaking, the thing that I found to be a tried and true approach is always to have a passion for the subject matter that you're dealing with. That passion, I think, drives the thirst for knowledge. So, always being aware of what's happening, just reading news, reading newspaper articles, whatever it is that you get your hands on and you read, I think that also tends to inform the decisions that you make in terms of investments. So, I think that is one part. The other part is just, I guess it's that intangible quality. It's just that little thing that's there that enables you to know what is going to happen before it happens. Like even, you mentioned these three guys, but even if you look at people like Warren Buffett and other, so-called super investors that people all over the world know their name. They all, yes, they're passionate about what they do. They have a good amount of knowledge. But at the same time, there's that little, I guess you could call it instinct, to know what is happening before it happens. So, they know where to put their money or when to take it out. Yeah.
So as a business journalist for so long, or even as a journalist, right? We meet quite a fair bit of people every single day. So does that improve how you judge a person, or like say a CEO, or by looking at him, would you know whether this is a good CEO to be, whether he's someone who's who know where to find loopholes within corporate movements, things like that? Is there such thing?
I believe so, but I think my answer will be a little bit unconventional, in the sense that if you just look at people in general, I always have lived by the principle that if you look at how a person treats their mother, service staff, so like, waiters, waitresses, maids, whatever, and animals, the way that people treat these three categories of, I guess, people also, you can tell a lot about their personality and whether or not they are a good person, and that will then translate into how they deal with people who are working under them as a leader. Yeah.
So
right. I would like to add on to that as well. A lot of times we do meet a lot of CEOs. There are good CEOs and there are bad CEOs. Bad in the sense that they may have a little shady background. We don't really know a person entirely, and most of the times we only spend maximum an hour or two during an interview to speak to them. So we just have to really gauge and get a gist of who they are within that 2 hours. Sometimes they don't reveal themselves overtly that they are a good person or a bad person, but there are traits where you pick up on something that it's again goes back to the gut feeling, and you feel sometimes like, hey, this fella sounds a little bit too good to be true. I may or may not want to do business with you, but I'll still write your story in a less positive manner. So again, then we as journalists, we have the responsibility to frame how the story is, or how the story that we want to write about. So if you're not genuine with me, I would get a negative vibe from you, and definitely my view of your company and how you are as a person or as a CEO, I will have the negative, you know, imprinted, the negative mindset imprinted in me. Hence, you may not get, I would say, a glowing review about how good your company is for earning hundreds of millions in profit, as opposed to, you know, somebody who probably make 5 million in profit. He has a genuine heart, but then because of his genuine heart, I gave him a glowing review because he just exudes positivity, and there's a genuine sense of him or her wanting to help others, and profit is just a, you know, side effect of helping others.